With a career spanning over half a century, Aretha Franklin is an artist who has cemented herself at the center of soul music, known synonymously as the Queen of Soul. Franklin's roots began in the church, which brought God and faith to the core of her music, demonstrating the essence of being to listeners all across the world. Truly unifying in her vocal expression, Aretha Franklin crossed oceans to become the international sweetheart. Emerging out of an unstable, at times traumatic childhood, Franklin withheld a talent within her, which remained unscathed by the pains of parental death and illness. At the age of 18, she embarked on a transition from gospel to secular music and moved to New York City. Eventually, her early pieces were often jumbled and unfocused, borrowing elements from different scenes and insinuating various audiences. However, the latter half of the 1960s brought Aretha the long overdue mainstream exposure that skyrocketed her to new heights. This is seen with Atlantic-released albums such as Aretha Arrives in '67, Lady Soul in '68, and Aretha Now in '68. Stylistically, Aretha Franklin's music embodies a distinct, controlled style which lingers on the ears mysteriously, whilst she holds a confidence within her voice which is quintessentially soul with all its irresistible pop charm. Her early gospel roots, which can be most prominently heard in debut album Songs of Faith, Aretha Gospel, acts as the thread that runs through her entire discography. Consequently, we are left with a wealth of songs which exceed genre and are pieces that come from her deep belief in the good of God. Standouts include the hypnotizing Part 1 and Part 2 of Precious Lord, which showcase the strength of faith Aretha held. I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You is an album which especially captures the soulful blues that dance across the piano as Franklin unburdens herself from the sorrows of romance. A standout track, Drown in My Own Tears, originally written by Henry Glover and famously released by Ray Charles, is a gorgeous example of how Franklin could spin an existing song into her own with her voice alone. She sings, "When I began to realize that I've cried so much, oh, since you've been gone," dragging out the last few words in a heartbreaking melody of longing and pain. However, the most well-known song of this musical era for Aretha has to be her empowered rendition of Otis Redding's Respect. It may have been once an anthem about male breadwinners and the favors they demand, but respect now has a universally known meaning: the respect a black woman deserves. Franklin became an important figure within the civil rights movement, as well as gender equality, and thus a song about the uncompromising need for respect became an instant hit. Spelling out RESPECT is a regular occurrence in parties and reminds the public too that Aretha Franklin was not just passionate about soul music, but the rights of every individual in the world too. Its cultural impact is evident, having been included in Rolling Stone's The 500 Great Songs of All Time and the Recording Industry of America's Songs of the Century. Aretha Franklin's stardom and influence surpassed the realms of the music industry. Her father, C.L. Franklin, was friends with Martin Luther King Jr., and here Aretha herself became well acquainted with many figures of Black America. It was believed that MLK Jr. would ask for her to perform Precious Lord and Amazing Grace, and when he died in 1968, she performed the former at his funeral. She also performed at many historical events, including Jimmy Carter's and Barack Obama's inaugurations. American culture was so entwined with Aretha Franklin and music she made. The beauty of Franklin's live onstage persona is captured no better than in her live album Amazing Grace, released in 1972. Here she performs with the grandeur of New Temple Missionary Baptist Church around her, elevated by the symphonic voices of Southern California Community Choir. The title track, Amazing Grace, is made into a 10-minute performance of Serenade, where Franklin's voice projects hope as the piano keys flutter behind her. Crowds of people cheering emerge as she sings, I've been here in the midst of a heaven, but I'm ready, I'm all ready. Jesus was with me and I've already called, yes, I have. The collectiveness of Aretha Franklin's performances is the epitome of live music and is arguably one of the greatest live albums to this day. The perfect sound mixing of her performance with the elated clapping and singing along leaves the entire body of work electrifying decades on. Furthermore, the album became Franklin's best performing release commercially, gaining the double platinum status and stands untouched as the best-selling live gospel album. At times, Aretha Franklin's lyricism floats into traumatic depths. Introspective and heartbroken, there are glimpses of Franklin's personal life, which she was notoriously private about in interviews. The bare all-soulful plea of "do right woman, do right man" presents a tentative situation between balance and imbalance within a romantic relationship. Gentle, and with a muted drum beat, Franklin offers clear results. "Take me to heart, and I'll always love you, and nobody can do me wrong. Take me for granted, leaving love unsure. Makes willpower weak and temptation strong. If she is cherished, nothing can go wrong in the end. But if, on the other hand, she is disregarded, a party will wander elsewhere for satisfaction." There is a natural, wise element to Aretha Franklin's persona, which in turn makes for some raw, honest lyrics. As the decades came and went, many genres underwent the revolving door of trend, where the 70s brought the heady lights of disco and the 80s excessive glam rock. Aretha Franklin continued to remain a force independent from the trends coming and going around her. At times, this meant quiet periods and commercially unsuccessful record releases, yet she remained ever relevant in culture. A duet piece with George Michael, "I Knew You Were Waiting for Me," effortlessly climbed its way up to the #1 spot in 1987. Whilst a surprising feature in the 1980 John Landis film The Blues Brothers gave her spotlight on the silver screen. Keeping firm in her style, Franklin remained a household name without compromising the Deep South soul roots which fans and critics alike loved in her. The turn of the new millennia saw continued abundance of appreciation for the Queen of Soul, with awards and performances regularly in Franklin's schedule. Among these was her 18th Grammy Award in 2008 for Best Gospel Performance with "Never Gonna Break My Faith" alongside Mary J. Blige, and posthumously a Pulitzer Award for contribution to music. Blessing us with a vast, expansive, and beautiful discography, there is no doubt that Aretha Franklin's music holds a longevity which can be seen and felt within contemporary music today, from soul and gospel to pop and R&B. You can check out the Carliv Spotify to listen to the original tracks of the artist. It's a curated playlist with the most popular songs.